Hey everyone, welcome back to the ATD Movie Channel on YouTube. This is a video that's going to be kind of unique in that it's not really, it is movie news, but it's kind of sad and depressing in a weird way because I'm a huge fan of the DC comic book characters. And Justice League obviously came out this weekend. Today's Monday, November 20th. It came out on Friday. And relatively speaking, it is a commercial failure. Leading into Sunday, the estimates were right around 96 million domestic gross. It actually ended up the weekend with 94 million domestic gross, which, guys, it's the reality of the situation. A $94 million release with a big budget like Justice League is an absolute failure. It's a bomb. It's a box office bomb. It's not even close. So let's talk a little bit about the history of the production, the entire DC extended universe as a whole, and what the hell happened and what's next. So this is just kind of a video where I can kind of voice some of my frustrations and plus maybe provide a little bit of history and insight to some people that may not know what happened. So really this goes all the way back to 2012 at the conclusion of the Dark Knight trilogy directed by Christopher Nolan starring Christian Bale. So the trilogy comes to an end in 2012 with The Dark Knight Rises, and in 2012 is where Marvel movies are making more and more money. They're 4 years into their production of films. The Avengers, I mean, there's so much hype and positive feedback going towards Marvel that DC Warner Brothers takes a look at themselves and says, okay, we got to do something. So they decide to reboot the entire DC film universe. We're going to ignore the Green Lantern starring Ryan Reynolds. We're going to say thank you to Christopher Nolan, but we've moved on. And they decide to reboot the entire franchise with Man of Steel starring Henry Cavill. To go back just a little bit further than that, in 2006, you saw Superman Returns that was really sort of paying homage to Richard Donner and a just softer side of Superman. Zack Snyder gets hired to direct Man of Steel, Henry Cavill gets cast, and they are off and running making a action-packed CGI extravaganza. Okay? The movie makes a ton of money, gets decent reviews. It's not the best reviewed film ever, and it's not the worst one either. It makes a ton of money. I think it was like close to $700 million, and everybody at DC Warner Brothers is excited about rebooting this entire universe. The sequel gets announced, and they're going after a Batman versus Superman style team-up fight film, okay? I already have reservations at this point because it was supposed to be a Superman sequel, but it's Batman v Superman, and then the subtext of that title is Dawn of Justice. So I already have reservations thinking to myself, all they're going to do is set up the Justice League. And the movie came out, and I have it here. It got a 27% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I've said it on the channel before. Rotten Tomatoes is not the end-all, be-all in terms of critical acclaim for a film, but it's important, and it is something that we, the general audience, uses to justify a film's reviews, okay? It's just become the language. Sorry, it is the way that it is. The movie comes out and has huge numbers, okay? Huge opening weekend and huge total run. But it's not without its criticisms, both about the tone, the way that the film focused on, different aspects of these characters that nobody really cares about. Superman was essentially a throwaway character in his own sequel. Another aspect of the film is Lex Luthor, played by Mark Zuckerberg. Sorry. He is a throwaway character that nobody really liked. I didn't like what they did with the Lex Luthor character at all. And then just a few years later, not even a few years later, but later in the year, we get Suicide Squad. And Suicide Squad was abysmal. It was such a bad film. 26% Rotten Tomatoes score. doesn't make nearly as much money as they were hoping, doesn't create the launch pad for a new villains universe, or, you know, a Joker standalone film or a Harley Quinn standalone film, whatever. It didn't do for Warner Brothers what they were hoping. It was a mess. You watch that movie and it feels like 15 different editors and 15 different directors created the film. Fast forward to earlier this year when Wonder Woman gets released. And finally, DC and Warner Brothers has a critical and commercial success on their hands. Batman v Superman was a commercial success. Critically, it was abysmal. Wonder Woman comes out, it's got a 92% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it made boatloads of money. Guess why, folks? Because it was a good movie. This is not rocket science. Good story, good characters, great special effect and spectacle. As an audience, that's all we can hope for are those three things, you know? I always talk about it on this channel. Story, character, and production design. That if they could just make those three things work in cohesion, you've got yourself a blockbuster. I take it back. You've got yourself a critical success. It may not be a blockbuster. Some movies just don't resonate with people. And now Justice League is in the works, and we all know it's coming. The characters have been teased. Aquaman has been teased. Cyborg has been teased. The Flash has been teased. And the universe is being built up, right? The superhero universe is being built up. But what happened after Batman v Superman is that the audience made it very clear. We don't want another dark tone, brooding film. We want something upbeat. We want something inspiring, and maybe we can even laugh during the movie. That'd be great. And so I call it the Marvel effect. I feel like Warner Brothers sat down and said, dude, this ain't working. We have to make this lighter. We have to give it a fun, light tone that will make people not only want to come the first time, but maybe come back a second and a third time. I remember personally, I went to go see the Avengers twice in the theater, and I rarely, if ever, in my 30 years of going to the movies, go twice to the theater to see anything. And I went twice to go see the Avengers. So Marvel and DC are now sort of competing. It's inherent because they're both big superhero, you know, producers, but nonetheless, I call it the Marvel effect, and the tone of the Justice League is kind of being changed now. The other tragedy that came about during the Justice League production is that Zack Snyder, the director of Justice League, who also directed Batman v Superman, who also directed Man of Steel, loses his daughter tragically and has to withdraw from the production. So nobody can fault the guy for that. That's just awful. I mean, it's awful. I don't want to imagine it. It's awful. Warner Brothers and DC hires Joss Whedon, who directed the Avengers and the Avengers sequel, Age of Ultron, to come in and help finish production. There's good and there's bad. There's pros and cons to this. The pros are that Whedon adds that really like specific comedy that he brings to his writing and his film production that you can see when you watch Justice League. You can see where Whedon sprinkled in jokes that maybe weren't there before. It's, again, a lighter tone in general, but I felt like with Whedon's inclusion, it got even lighter, and the jokes were funnier and they were bigger. The challenge with that is I felt like there was two different visions. I felt like I could sense that there was two different directors at the chair, because it was pretty obvious which scenes were directed by Zack Snyder and which ones were directed by Joss Whedon. And I'm going to take it as far as to say even the film composition, and what I mean by that is like the color composition, the color palette that was being used. I swear I'm not crazy, and I'm going to try to go watch Justice League again. It felt like it was a completely different color palette between Whedon's filming and Zack Snyder's. And 20% of the movie was reshot with Joss Whedon. So it's not like he came in and he did a couple days of shooting just to clean up some stuff that didn't work in editing. 20% of the movie was reshot, okay? So 120-minute film, you do the math. You know, that's like 25 minutes of the movie was completely reshot. And it's funny, I've read about this, and then when I went to the movies, I noticed it. But you could see that Ben Affleck has gained weight for the reshoots, where in the original shoot for Zack Snyder's take, He's yoked and everything. But, you know, and I have no room to talk, guys. But it's kind of funny when you pay attention to it. You can see his double chin a little bit. You can see the hairline has changed on Bruce Wayne. But those are the things that if I didn't read about it ahead of time, I probably wouldn't have noticed. But, you know, it's something that I thought it was kind of funny and I thought I would share with you. And then the freaking Henry Cavill mustache issue. So Henry Cavill gets cast by Paramount to go do the next Mission Impossible film alongside Tom Cruise. And how on earth, I don't understand this, they got him to sign a contract that said he wouldn't shave his mustache. I can't get my employees to do anything, much less not shave their mustache. It's ridiculous. But what that led to was when they went to go do reshoots, and we all knew Superman was in the movie. I mean, it's stupid. Their marketing was awful. And I'll get to that in a minute. They had to digitally redo his face so that they could cover up his mustache that he was growing for Mission Impossible. It was obvious. It was painfully obvious when you watch the movie. The CGI in his face was so bad. And I feel bad for the animators because I bet you they didn't have much time to work with. And that's probably why it doesn't look really good. But it just sucks you right out of the movie. You can't help but look at Henry Cavill's face and go, what is going on here, you know? Another thing that I wrote in here is the cuts. The edit of this film is awful. So Warner Brothers supposedly put out a mandate that the movie had to be under 2 hours. And I feel like it's for multiple reasons. If I had to just be the cynic and think to myself, they wanted it to be under 2 hours so that the theaters could show it more often so they can make more money. That's a very cynical way of looking at it. Maybe they genuinely didn't want another 3-hour movie or close to it like Batman v Superman that dragged on. Maybe they wanted to make sure that the action was sped up. The problem with that is you have so many characters that none of them get their fair share, except for maybe Wonder Woman. Maybe after Wonder Woman's success, they decided Gal Gadot needed to be front and center of this movie. I don't know. The point I'm trying to make is that mandate to reduce the film length, it only works in certain instances. But when you have a mashup team movie where, remember now, we have never met the Flash, Aquaman, or Cyborg to the extent that we do in Justice League. Sure, they're shown in a snippet in Batman v Superman and stuff like that. I don't count that. That's an Easter egg if anything else. We haven't even met these characters to any extent, and now we're trying to speed the movie along to keep it under 2 hours short. You just can't do that. And that's why I'm optimistic that there's maybe a 3-hour cut that I'm actually looking forward to. And I even said it in the review for Justice League. I always complain about Hollywood films being too long and not being able to tell a concise and succinct story. But with this, it should have been longer. I mean, some of these things are so painfully obvious that you're wondering to yourself, I'm not that bright of a guy. How can, you know, the Warner Brother and DC executives not see this? There's a million reasons it didn't work. Like there's a lot of different factors that played into it. But what really bothers me is that I wanted these characters I wanted it to work. I wanted this film to be a huge success so that I'm guaranteed to see more. You know, and before the movie was even released, DC and Warner Brothers completely redid their slate of films. Justice League was supposed to be one of 2 films that they were going to film back to back. That's gone. And it's all relative, right? Like it's all relative to the success commercially of these movies. The film industry is a business, and we have to remember that. We might be fanboys, we might love film, we might love superheroes, but at the end of the day, guys, it's about money. I'm sorry, it is. If these movies don't make money, they don't make more. And I guess that leads to my question of what now? I don't know. I don't know if they continue this universe with the Aquaman film that's scheduled next. I don't know if they schedule the Flash film after that or a Cyborg movie after that. It's going to be really tough when the movie only opens to 94 million on a budget of 250, guys, plus marketing to justify another film. And I mentioned it earlier. I wanted to talk about the marketing because I think it's really important. And so in my opinion, in my humble opinion, the huge part of this movie's failure is the marketing. The marketing was awful. it was as cookie cutter, big blockbuster marketing that you can imagine. The billboards, the trailers, that's all what everybody else is doing. So if you're going to do what everybody else is doing, don't expect results better than everybody else. And one of the brilliant things about Deadpool was its marketing. I mean, seriously, they should teach in marketing classes the way that the studio marketed that film last year and the way they've already started marketing part 2 this year. I just don't understand why they didn't approach it differently. Why not, focus the trailers more on the fun and the excitement and the jokes and the characters, right? Like, we're going to see these iconic characters that we love. Focus your energy on the characters. You look at the posters, they're just about as generic as it gets, Photoshop nonsense. I remember going back and watching some of the trailers to the Avengers, and I was so excited and pumped just watching a trailer. How am I not going to go see the movie multiple times? I might have been pumped watching the trailer because it was all my favorite characters from DC, but there was nothing about it that stood out. Like, there's nothing memorable. And then go to their print sales and their online marketing, and it's just kind of blah. There's nothing about it that was all that great. And again, without kind of regurgitating everything, the Deadpool stuff was just brilliant, the way they marketed that film, and if I firmly believe that if they could have found a way to better market this movie, it would have made more money. It maybe wouldn't have affected the critical response, but I do think that they could have sold more tickets than they did. We're 2 weeks away. We're 2 weeks past Thor coming out. Coco from Disney Pixar is coming out on Wednesday. There's a very small window of opportunity that these guys were going to make any kind of money whatsoever. And it's sad. It really is. It sucks. I'm sad that I didn't personally like the movie, and that's fine. What I'm finding is from fanboys everywhere is I'm kind of in the minority, and that's okay. Like, just because I didn't like the movie doesn't mean I don't want it to succeed. Doesn't mean I don't want more of these movies, Same with Batman v Superman. I left the theater going, you know what? That was really entertaining. It's not a good movie, but it was really entertaining. And I think I felt pretty similar after this movie. It's really entertaining. It just wasn't very good. And I've made my points clear in the review why I didn't think it was very good. Well, tell me what you guys think. I've been talking for a long time now, so tell me what you guys think in the comments below. Am I crazy? Do you feel like anything that I talked about today led to the commercial failure of this film? And again, try to be as objective as possible, because forget that you loved or hated the movie. That's really not this discussion. This discussion is why. Why did it fail commercially, and what next? I sincerely hope they continue with the DC Extended Universe. I really do. I want to see Jason Momoa as Aquaman. I want to see Ezra Miller as The Flash. And I want to see Ray Fisher as Cyborg, believe it or not. I thought he had something really interesting to bring to the movie, even though he wasn't utilized at all. So let me know in the comments below. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I'm putting out a lot more content, a lot more regularly. You can find other movie news discussions just like this one on the channel as well. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll talk to you real soon.